Trucks were Joe's livelihood. He'd been driving rigs for over 15 years, hauling cargo across desolate highways, through endless nights lit only by the dim glow of dashboard gauges and fleeting neon signs. But there was one route that even he dreaded, Route 709, a forgotten stretch of road cutting through dense forests and marshlands. Locals called it the Shadow Haul. Rumors swirled about mysterious accidents and unexplainable disappearances. Truckers whispered tales of headlights that appeared and disappeared in the rearview mirror, shadows moving too fast for their size. Joe didn't believe in such things, until the night he took the wrong job. Joe was sitting at the Rusty Axle Diner when he got the call. A late-night delivery needed immediate attention. A shipment of sealed crates heading to a warehouse on the outskirts of Jackson. The payout was double his usual rate, and the dispatcher, a man he didn't recognize, seemed eager, desperate even, to get the job done. "It's urgent, Joe," the man's gravelly voice crackled over the line. "No stops. No questions. Just get it there before dawn." Joe agreed, brushing off the man's unease as overzealousness. Money was money, and he was behind on his bills. The trailer was loaded when Joe arrived at the yard, the crates strapped down and ready. No labels, no packing slips, just a stark black tarp covering them like a shroud. As he climbed into the cab, a chill crawled up his spine. Shrugging it off, he started the engine and pulled onto the highway. The night stretched out like an ink-black ribbon. The radio crackled as Joe scanned for stations, settling on an oldies channel. The tunes were calming, drowning out the hum of the tires on the asphalt. An hour passed uneventfully, until he noticed the headlights. At first, Joe thought it was another rig following behind him. The twin beams appeared in his mirrors, steady and distant. But something felt off. The headlights seemed too high, hovering unnaturally above the road. He squinted, adjusting the mirrors for a better look. The lights blinked out. "What the hell?" he muttered, checking his blind spots. No cars, no sign of movement, just the endless forest. Minutes later, the lights were back, closer this time. They flickered erratically, as if the vehicle was struggling to stay in existence. Joe's hands tightened on the wheel, the chill from earlier returning with force. By the third hour, the lights were gone again, but the unease remained. Joe reached for his thermos of coffee, only to jerk back as the steering wheel vibrated violently. The truck shuddered to a halt on the shoulder, the engine gasping like it had run a marathon. "Great," Joe grumbled, stepping out with a flashlight. As he inspected the trailer and tires, he noticed something odd. The air was unnaturally still. No wind, no rustling leaves. Even the forest seemed to be holding its breath. Then he saw them. Footprints. Large, uneven prints sank into the dirt by the rear wheels, leading away from the truck into the dark woods. They weren't human. Each print had elongated toes, sharp grooves in the soil like claws had gripped the earth. Joe jumped back into the cab, slamming the door and locking it. He hit the ignition, coaxing the reluctant engine back to life. The dashboard lights flickered, but the truck lurched forward. As he pulled back onto the road, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every shadow seemed to stretch longer, every tree swayed unnaturally as if reaching for him. And then the whispers started. Faint at first, like static, they grew louder, more distinct. "Turn around. You're not supposed to be here. Stop the truck." Joe turned up the radio, but the whispers crawled under the music, seeping into his thoughts. The tension peaked when he checked the rearview mirror again. There, standing on top of the trailer, was a shadowy figure, tall, gaunt, with glowing red eyes. Joe's heart pounded as the figure began to move, climbing toward the cab with deliberate, jerking motions. He floored the gas pedal, the truck groaning in protest as it sped down the winding road. The shadow figure pressed a hand against the windshield. Its fingers left streaks of inky darkness that seemed to writhe and pulse, alive in some alien way. Joe swerved, trying to shake it off. And then it spoke. "You took what is ours." The words chilled him to his core. He slammed the brakes, hoping to dislodge the figure, but the cab spun out, skidding into the ditch. The trailer tipped, the crates crashing loudly as they spilled into the roadside. Joe scrambled out, flashlight in hand, and pointed it toward the wreckage. One crate had broken open, revealing its contents: bones. Human bones. The whispers erupted into a deafening roar. Shadows spilled out from the forest, coalescing around the broken crate, their forms shifting and writhing like smoke in a hurricane. Joe ran, his flashlight flickering as he stumbled through the woods. Behind him, the shadows pursued, their voices screaming accusations. Thief? Desecrator? You will pay. Hours later, the sun rose, revealing an empty highway. Joe's truck was gone, as were the crates and their grim contents. Authorities found no trace of the wreck, and Joe himself was never seen again. But truckers passing through Route 709 often report strange occurrences: flickering headlights, shadowy figures standing by the roadside, and an eerie whispering carried on the wind. Those brave enough to investigate say they sometimes see the ghost of a rig barreling down the highway at midnight, its driver's terrified face frozen in an eternal scream.